Hello and welcome to today's video. It's early morning where I am. I got my coffee, I got my Bible, and I was actually looking to see where we left off. My name's Haley. If you haven't been to this channel, welcome. And this is all about the gene keys. Today is a continuation of the 14th shadow of compromise. And I was trying to find where we left off, but I really did a number on this chapter, so I finally was able to locate it. If you haven't seen part 1 to this, I recommend backtracking and viewing that so that you can build off of what we already discussed in that video. So yes, the last thing we left off on was talking about how enjoyment in the work that you do, once again, work pertaining to more than just what you do to make money. Work can also be a sport you enjoy, a hobby, a passion, a creative act, and how important it is that you enjoy the work that you are partaking in, whether it monetizes or not. Because without enjoyment, there's no acceleration. You can't actually climb the rank of sustainable abundance, again, whether that's in the form of money, the energy and amplitude of gratitude and joy for life that you receive, abundance in all forms. You can't accelerate in your own abundance if you don't enjoy what you are doing. And then I painted that picture. He says, enjoyment and enthusiasm are the fuel in the turbine that drives you to excel, which ropes it back to that first sentence we went over in the last video, talking about the I Ching's 14th hexagram, possession of great measure, symbolized by that large wheel. So that wheel of fortune needs the enthusiasm, needs the enjoyment to keep turning and generating abundance. All children are born with a certain genius. If allowed to develop, if implies that there is a chance it won't be allowed to develop. But if this genius that's inherent in all children is allowed to develop, the genius will inevitably emerge in the work that they do, and they will inspire others to achieve the same high standards. So naturally, if you let the 6-year-old sing, even if she sounds like a screeching lion, but she genuinely enjoys it, eventually, evolution's path is to create inspiration out of that gift and generate probably something that sounds a little bit more harmonious to all ears. And in following my own joy, I'm able to hand that to others, inspire others, give others the gift of awareness that the potential exists for an individual to start off with something they feel joyful about and maybe aren't well versed in, and then naturally, inevitably climb into that state of genius and not only create a job that they love, but also spread that inspiration. And this reference I'm using is from the last video again, so if you haven't seen that, it's important. I tell a little story about how my childhood dream of being a singer was squashed. And this is just an example, obviously, right? I'm not a paid singer. I wouldn't necessarily going around even saying I do that. But now with this awareness, reading this chapter, it's important to contemplate, you who's watching, what were the things that you came into this world joyful about? Maybe it was singing like me, or maybe it was a certain sport, or cooking in the kitchen, or making pottery. Maybe it was dancing, making skits, being funny. And ask yourself if you are still engaging with that activity, that work, that hobby that once brought you joy. And if you are, how much of your time is it filling? And would you like it to be filling more? And if it's not present at all, then what happened to it? How can you reignite that flame and create a space for that talent, hobby, work, passion to come back and infiltrate? Because the fun thing about these little gems that all children are born with, this genius that all children are born with, is it never expires, right? Say you do have a passion for making pottery, but it got squashed and now you don't do it, and oh, I'm not good at it. You have this whole story. It's never too late to open up the cabinet and take out that genius, that activity that brings you joy, and reignite it and re-enliven it. So that's kind of exciting. And he doesn't say that here, but I just have an inkling that that's true. Okay, well, what would be the point of that, Haley? Well, he says, genius itself is highly contagious, just as compromise is. I love that line. Genius itself is highly contagious. You following your joy and acting on it makes other people want to follow their joy and act on it. It's highly contagious. You know, it's like a flu that everyone gets. And he reminds us here that compromise is also highly contagious. When I sell some of my values, I let people walk over my boundaries and borders. Oh, well, she's doing it, so maybe I should be doing that too. And we wonder, right, why, for the most part, collectively, we are all working in environments where we are compromising quite a bit of our time, our happiness, our energy, our money. It's because it's highly contagious. But let this sentence kind of invite you into an excitement, because once again, just as contagious as compromise is genius. Meaning if you right now actually decided, you know what, I'm gonna pull that old genius out from the cabinet, start practicing the pottery, start singing, even if I sound like a screeching lion, even if I can't even make a mug that really holds much of anything. I'm gonna do it because I wanna do it, because I like to do it, knowing that evolution, the divine, will match my effort. Eventually I'll be able to make many mugs that hold lots of coffee for all sorts of people. I'll be able to sing and bring joy to myself and those around me, cultivate an energy around a campfire. If you take that genius out of the cabinet, it will contaminate everything around it and start to gobble up all the compromise that surrounds you, manifest as different people. Okay, so then he takes us down a very necessary rabbit hole. Why is it that compromise is so contagious? Damn it. You know, like right now, sitting here really thinking about this word compromise, I'm sure you, who's watching, and myself can agree, yeah, it doesn't sound like even a good word, you know? It just sounds like, man, real, okay, fine. Like it just has that kind of like energy to it. So why is it that it's so not only contagious, but that we get roped into it? He says compromise is often very subtle at the beginning. You don't actually realize it's there. It flies under the radar. It's not really about your action, but about your spirit. So at first when I read that, I go, I don't know about that, Richard. I don't know if I agree with that. So I keep reading. He says it's about your spirit, not your action. If you do something that you don't really like, but it's a stepping stone toward your dreams, then that will transform you, transform the way in which you do it. Okay, so here's an example. I don't really want to be an intern, but, well, they told me I can be an intern for free, They shaped it like this whole opportunity, and well, if I do this internship, then it's highly likely that in the future I'll be able to attain my real job of being a journalist at the New York Post. I'm just making this up, right? So right now I'm compromising, I'm interning for free in the hopes that it will lead me to my actual dream, which is being a journalist at the New York Post. Richard Rudd continues, if, however, you do something that you don't like because society has some way pressured you to do it, then you are on a slippery slope. So that first example, internship, you have to really ask yourself, is this internship something I am choosing to do because I actually see it as a stepping stone to my real dream? Or am I doing this internship because, oh, well, you're at that age where you do internships and your mom told you that, look, all your friends are doing internships, and you look around and all your friends are doing internships and like, well, I guess I should do the internship. So you have to really ask yourself, is this a compromise? Is this compromise choosing you out of pressure from societal norm, or are you choosing it, seeing it as a proper stepping stone to where you actually want to go? And this is tricky, right? Because it really takes you sitting down, becoming aware, and having a conversation with yourself. Am I choosing this internship, or am I letting this internship choose me because I feel pressure from those around me? And if it's the latter, if I'm choosing the internship because, well, everyone else is doing it, so I should too, then Richard Rudd says you are on a slippery slope. This is not the energy to start an endeavor in, one of deprecation. Yeah, it just makes me think of this kind of like you feel like you're being squashed. You don't want to start out your path to your dreams like that. Whereas the first is more empowering, right? No, I'm choosing this internship because I see where it's going to lead me. That's more like I'm stepping into it, not I'm being squashed. And the thing about slippery slopes is once you compromise once, it's highly contagious. You will keep compromising easier and easier and easier until your whole life has become one big compromise. I would know this because I speak from experience. And in the end, it will sap your spirit. Check. Draw you away from your true potential, your real dream. Check. Your heart-based dream, your service-oriented goal. And what does that mean, to sap your spirit? What it essentially means is to drain your life force. Another way to say that is it will suck out all of your enthusiasm. And remember, it's enjoyment, enthusiasm that fuel this turbine, this wheel of fortune, your abundance. Without enthusiasm, good luck. So when you're letting compromises squash you, you're selling your enthusiasm. You're saying, here, take my joy. The more joy you give away, the further you are from your own abundance. And one would ask, well, why would a person do this? Why would someone willingly give away their enthusiasm? Once again, because compromise is so subtle. You really need to sit down and ask yourself why you're doing what you're doing. And so the best way to navigate this contagiousness of compromise in the societal plane that we live in is in every decision you make, specifically in the decisions oriented toward hobby or work or receiving money in exchange for work. You need to ask yourself, why am I doing this? Am I doing it because someone else told me to? Am I doing it because everyone else is doing it? Am I doing it because I think I have to? Because I have to make money or because I have to make a living? Or am I actually doing this because I see it as a stepping stone to something I really enjoy? Or maybe I already currently really enjoy it. So the first contemplation, think of something currently that you're not super stoked about. Again, this can be your literal job or a hobby that you're partaking in, or maybe a tennis club that you've been forced into by your friends. Something that you're just like, you're doing it, but you don't even, you're like, wait, why am I doing this? Sit down with yourself and have a conversation. See where the compromise started. See if you can find that root of compromise. Where did you first start to willingly give away your enthusiasm in exchange for money or validation from friends or whatever it is? and just have a conversation about that. Get to the root. And in getting to the root, you'll naturally find a way to restore enthusiasm and bring that back. And once again, this is going to start to draw you back to your true potential. He then brings up the word genus, which is Genus, slightly different than genius, which is Genius. And he says they're closely related to each other. So before reading this, I had never heard the word genus. And he says, genus encapsulates the entire human species, everyone. And genius, likewise, is a hereditary trait that appears across all gene pools, sorry. Meaning genius is neither special or rare. Genius, the very root of the word genius, is in reference to the entire human species. This genius is in everyone, again, whether it's manifest in the form of having an affection, an admiration toward creating pottery, singing, cooking. And it's somewhere in here. And it was very easily accessible and known to you as a child. So the best way to locate this genius that is neither special or rare and is in every single human, the best way to locate that is maybe take a little trip down memory lane and try and remember what maybe perhaps silly thing brought you joy as a child, or talk to a parent about what you were like as a kid. Trying to locate this genius that is there. Because I know a lot of you watching this up until now have been like, oh, well, no, but I'm not creative, or I don't have anything I'm necessarily drawn to. And it's like, no, you do. You do, because this word genius is literally derived from genus, which is in reference to the all. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of where. Where is it hiding? What is it? And ironically enough, I have a little inkling that the more enthused you are by this idea that there is genius hiding in you somewhere, the more momentum and motivation you'll have to locate that and act on it. So let this be inspiring. Let this be like a birthday gift that's not arriving on your birthday, unless it's your birthday and you're watching this. But let this be like oh, perfect. There's something special within me hiding, waiting for me to find it. I should probably go and find it. And he does bring up the fact that the word genius has kind of been misunderstood up until now, right? When we think of the word genius, usually we think of like Albert Einstein or someone who's made monumental leaps in the 3D. But that's what we currently think of as genius, is just someone who has located and acted upon their genius. This doesn't mean that it's not present and inherent within all of us. It denotes great creativity, originality, and enthusiasm. So it'll be completely unique and original to you. It will include your enthusiasm, your joy, and it will create something that the world has not yet seen. And this genius, say you even locate it. Say you're like, oh yeah, I just remembered that when I was a little kid, I really liked dance. Okay, that's not enough to start sharing it with the world. Genius is a spark that needs to be fanned into action, meaning you must keep practicing it. Once you locate your genius, say it's dancing, you need to start dancing. And you need to treat that practice as a routine. Just like if you were going to say you're going to learn Spanish, you wouldn't just say, well, I've decided to learn Spanish, so all done here. No, now you need to actually practice Spanish, and not just once, but every day for a little bit of time maybe. And the greater degree in which you practice, the more you fan the spark, the faster you develop the skill of being able to fluently speak Spanish. This translates in the same way to your genius. You'll be able to speak the language of genius the more rapidly, intensely, filled with enthusiasm and energy that you fan your own spark. The spark of genius is there at birth. And if, once again, this magical world, if it's recognized at this early age and the child has an environment that helps fan it into life, the genius will emerge much sooner with much more force at the beginning. And this looks like parents that encourage the child to dance even if the child is a bad dancer. This looks like teachers that openly ask and are inquisitive about the child's dream and genius. What inspires you about dance? How do you want to dance? Should we create a dance? Someone who helps get this momentum of the fan going. All of these things help the genius emerge. He brings us back to compromise before we get into this repressive and reactive nature of the shadow. Compromise cannot bring you prosperity. Once again, compromise is spirit draining. You're selling your enthusiasm. Without enthusiasm, you cannot turn this abundance wheel, this wheel of fortune. It cannot bring you prosperity because it makes you a follower. Compromise is, oh, I'm doing it because everyone else is. I'm doing it because I have to, because someone told me. It's the opposite of being autonomous. It's the opposite of being a creator. True prosperity, true abundance, emerges from doing what we are here to do rather than being simply another cog in a collective machine. I like the way he says that. Simply another cog in a collective machine. The moment you begin to compromise, your wagon begins to leak energy. Once again, you can just start to think of the word compromise as you have all these dollar bills, and each dollar bill is symbolic of your own enthusiasm, your own joy. Compromise is you're just willy-nilly giving them out to appease everyone around you, so that you don't upset your parent or your teacher or your peers by being different and unique and creative. It's important to recognize too, you are the one that's choosing to give away your joy and your enthusiasm. You are the one that's choosing compromise. Without this level of accountability, it's very, I would say, impossible to escape a shadow frequency, because that would infer that you're the victim. And being the victim in and of itself is a shadow. So taking responsibility and saying, I have been the one, damn it, that's choosing to follow the crowd, that's choosing to allow the pressure from society to steer me in a certain direction. Therefore, I'm also the one who chooses to forego that, to say, no, that's not for me, to choose to follow my own joy. Compromise negates the possibility of good fortune and synchronicity. It's a no man's land where nothing of beauty can ever occur. Okay, so I think we get the point, right? Compromise, it's not good. I like how he really just, this last paragraph, no, this is why. Okay, we get it, Richard Rudd. Compromise can lead to nothing of good fortune. The last section of this shadow state is going over the repressive nature of impotence and the reactive nature of enslaved. So repressive, depressive, this is a lack of energy if you're embodied within this shadow frequency of compromise. You're unconsciously dominated by fear. And this is the fuel that's moving you now, right? This energy of fear. The more compromises in life that you make, the more powerless you feel, right? The more compromises you make, the more enthusiasm you give out, the less energy you have. You're literally giving away your energy in the form of these enthusiasm dollars. And so of course you feel drained, a lack of energy. Because this energy is meant to be channeled through work, through hobbies that you find fulfilling, that you find joy in, that you also receive joy in, right? You're not meant to be giving this powerful currency away to compromise. You're meant to be giving it to something that also gives you joy, so that it creates a circuit, not a one-way channel to your death. He does note that this word impotence has a double connotation in reference to sexuality. He says that sexual vibrancy and fertility in part rises and falls upon how much fulfillment we get out of our lives. Making compromises out of fear will actually deplete our fertility. That is a big claim. But somehow I have a feeling it's true. And also for you who's watching, if you're not familiar with the entirety of my story, when I was severely compromising my own values, boundaries, needs, and health just to be in this modeling industry that I thought I needed to be in, I quite literally did lose my menstrual cycle for 5 years, and I developed PCOS, which are both linked to fertility. So reading this sentence, making compromises out of fear will actually deplete our fertility, I can personally say from my own life experience is true. You who's watching, of course, decipher for yourself, since I know that's quite a big claim for someone to be making, but I can say it's pretty spot on. True impotence, he gives us the final definition, in this respect is about not having the courage to stand alone and pursue one's unique path. Keyword courage. This is the way out of impotence. This is the way out of compromise. And until you have this key component of courage, you will stand among the unconscious mass and you will not pursue your own unique path. Wow, that's depressing. Okay, and then the reactive nature, enslavement. Such a heavy word. He says this is also based upon insecurity, this reactive nature of a person trying to prove themselves out of this foundational root of insecurity. You see people working hard in jobs that aren't even really for them in the first place, just to prove that they can do it, that they're special. These people are enslaved to their own need for recognition and validation. And they'll never truly be fulfilled, right? Because fulfillment found in the validation of others is false and fleeting. Their true fulfillment, their true enthusiasm, their endless abundance is waiting for them in the profession where they don't compromise anything. And this one's dangerous, right? Because say you are really good at just forcing your way through it and working through it, and you are getting validated. You're actually getting an illusion of enjoyment coming back to you. But once again, this is ego enjoyment. This isn't like heart-based consciousness enjoyment, meaning it won't stay. It will fleet on by, and then you'll be hungry for more of it. So this creates a really dangerous dependency cycle on external validation, which only perpetuates the individual's own insecurity. So this is a cycle that's very hard to escape. He reminds us here that true power never needs to prove itself and others to the world. What actually brings you joy and enthusiasm doesn't need validation from others, because your validation is the joy you receive from doing the action that you actually enjoy doing. That's a lot to think about. This was quite a jam-packed chapter. Stay tuned for the next video where we go over the gift of competence, how to elevate out of this shadow frequency of compromise and elevate into competence. Hey guys, thanks again for tuning in with me for this Gene Keys episode. I also just wanted to come on here and start promoting my one-to-one coaching that I offer to women and girls ages 16 to 35. If you followed me on Instagram for a while, you might be a little bit familiar with my story. I was a model in New York City for 5 years, and in that time frame, I did quite some damage. I developed a really severe eating disorder, body dysmorphia, chronic anxiety. Oh my gosh, I couldn't even go out to dinner without thinking about how much calories, how much I'd have to overwork out in order to compensate for what I was eating. All of those issues led to quite a depression and turned into PCOS, and I also lost my menstrual cycle for over 5 years. All of this amalgamation of issues led me to soon realize that something needed to change. I went through much work. Many people helped me to get to where I am now. And I'm so thrilled to say I'm living such a more abundant life, and I don't feel zapped and drained and fear of judgment anymore like I used to. I would love to offer what I've learned through my own embodied experience, the meditative techniques that have gravitated toward me, and the own verified games that I've made up and curated to help you walk home to more of you and who you really are, so that all of these things can stop draining your energy. You know, all the constant comparison to others and to your people on Instagram, all the over-analysis about working out and what you're eating or what you look like. All of these things are not what life's about, as cheesy as it sounds. And I would love to help you come into more unity with you if you struggle with any of these things and you're a woman or girl between the ages of 16 and 35. So feel free to reach out to me if one-on-one coaching sounds resonant. You can feel free to DM me through Instagram or contact me via email, both of which will be left below in the description box. So much love and aloha to you guys, and I'll see you all in the next video.